Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Burma Nation. We are chatting today about 9-5. Just to get your minds thinking about math again, we have a couple warm-up questions. Hopefully you guys can see directly how these graphs are going to relate to the parent graph just by knowing that there's a negative here, so it's reflected. How we have a plus 4, so it's shifted up 4. This one's going to be stretched, or compressed at a rate of 3 because of the 3 in front of the x. This guy is going to be flipped and then stretched by a power of 1/5, and then it's going to go down 18 because of that minus 18. So hopefully those are things that you guys still remember from 9-4. And then let's get started today. We're talking about the quadratic equation today. And it's super important that you guys write down this formula. When you come back to class after watching this video, we'll have a nice little song for you about the quadratic. But it's the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now it's important that a cannot be equal to 0 because we cannot divide by 0. That's an undefined thing. So we've got to make sure that we check all of our numbers out before we start doing anything. All right, so our first process here is we're going to take this first question, and step number 1 is we want to make it equal to 0. So we're going to put it into standard form. So it's going to look like an x squared minus 2x, that's a squared, and a minus 35 is equal to 0 because we subtracted 35 from both sides. Okay, now when we have this is where we're going to plug into that formula. Remember, it was the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So here's my a, my b, and my c. So we just have to plug the numbers in, use our trusty calculators to solve for this. So I'm going to change colors and plug the numbers in. Since b is a negative 2, the opposite of that's going to be a positive 2. And b squared is going to be, again, a 4. Minus a 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is a negative 35. All of that stuff is over 2 times a, which is a 1. So again, we're just going to simplify the stuff inside of the radical. So it's going to say 4 minus, now again, we're multiplying all these things together, so I forgot the parentheses there. So it's going to be 4 times 1 times a negative 35. So just this part is a negative 140. So 4 minus a negative 140 turns into 4 plus 140. So we have in the square root a 144. So we have 2 plus or minus a square root of 144 divided by 2. So that simplifies into a 2 plus or minus 12 divided by 2. And again, that's two situations. So we're going to have excuse me for that one, we're going to have a 2 plus 12 divided by 2, which is equal to 2 plus 12 is 14. 14 divided by 2 is 7. And a 2 minus 12 divided by 2. And 2 minus 12 is negative 10. Divided by 2 is a negative 5. So we find out that x is equal to our 7. And it's also equal to a negative 5. So those are the answers that x can be equal to. If we were to have graphed this, that's where it would cross the x-axis. And that should help you to answer the essential question from the previous page. So that's how we solve these. This is an example for you to do the exact same process. And there's an A for you, so good luck to you. And we'll show you guys another problem just like the one that you just practiced with the multiple choice. So we're going to plug in, again, into the quadratic formula, opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all of it's over 2a. Now because b is a negative 2, we're going to now make this a positive 2. Positive 2 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is again a negative 2 squared, which is a positive 4, minus 4 times a, which was 2, times c, which is negative 5, all over 2 times a, which is going to leave us with this when we plug it into the formula. So let's do the math. I'm going to actually try to simplify all this in one step to make things a little bit easier for us. So it's going to be 2 plus or minus. Now we're going to have 4 minus 4 times 2 times a negative 5, which is 44. So all of that stuff in here simplifies to a 44. Now again, folks, we don't have a nice perfect square here, so it's going to make it a little bit more difficult for us. Now I don't know why it just did that with my writing, but we'll rewrite it for you. So we're going to use the information. This is a square root of 44. We're going to round to the nearest tenth because the square root of 44 is not a very nice number. And in fact, it's 6.6 rounded to the nearest tenth. So this specifically is 6.6. So we're going to have a 2 plus 6.6 divided by 4 and a 2 minus 6.6 divided by 4 to get our two answers. So those are the things that we're typing into our calculators. And hopefully you have a calculator at home that can help you out. 2 plus 6.6 divided by 4. And I got a 2.15, which rounds to a 2.2. And then we have a 2 minus the 6.6 divided by 4, which is a negative 1.15, which rounds to a negative 1.2. So my x values, where it crosses the x-axis, are going to be at a 2.2 and at a negative 1.2. And that's the important part for us to be able to understand, that it's crossing the x-axis if we were to graph this. So the quadratic formula is very helpful for you when we don't have nice numbers. There's still a formula that will get you a pretty darn close answer to where it's crossing. So there's this thing called the discriminant. And the discriminant is the part that's underneath the radical sign, the square root sign. And what this does for us, it's going to help us to find the number of solutions. So if you plug into just the discriminant, if your answer is negative, your graph might look like this, which would be a no solutions graph. If your answer is positive, you're going to have 2 solutions. And if your answer is 0, you're going to have 1 solution. So what we need to do is make sure that we understand that the discriminant is just this b squared minus 4ac, and then make sure that we understand again that if it's negative, no solutions, if it's positive, 2 solutions, and if it's 0, 1 solution. So let's practice that. Before we practice that, remembering this is the types of methods that we have talked about this chapter so far. These are the times when we use them. I told you guys that I would give you a list as to when to use the different methods, kind of like what we did in chapter 8 when we were factoring. So moving on to the discriminant. Our job is to solve the value of the discriminant and then state the number of solutions. So step 1, we want to make that equal to 0. So 3x squared plus a 10x minus 12 equals 0. And remember, the discriminant is just the b squared minus 4ac. So we're plugging into that. So b is a 10, and 10 squared minus a 4 times a times c is going to get us to what we need for an answer. So 100 minus, let's see, 12 times 12 minus 144. Let's double check in the calculator. So 100 minus 4 times 3 times 12, a negative 12. So minus a negative 144, so it turns into adding. So we're going to have a positive 244. Now because our discriminant was 244, that's a positive number. We'll have 2 solutions. So solving for the discriminant is the answer of 244, and then there's going to be 2 solutions because it is positive. Now folks, this is basically what we're doing with 9.5 for our chapter 9, and it's very, very difficult at times, but make sure that you are keeping track of all the things you need to keep track of. Use the notes wisely, and this is your last response question for you to put onto the Google form. Do your best, take your time, and we'll see you tomorrow with your homework. This is Burma Nation. We're signing off.